Howdy, soldiers. I am very tired. It's not even noon. This is my second cup of coffee, so I'm either going to be underly or overly caffeinated for the majority of this video. I've tried to film this video 4 times. So this video is the kind of late that if your ex-boyfriend texted you and asked to get back together, it would be well over the time threshold of consideration. This video is the kind of late that if you took a side quest halfway through your adventure to save the world would be screwed by now. This is the kind of late that if you handed it an essay, your teacher would ask you for a medical document, not only signed by all your doctors, but the goddamn president. Considering that November was just a barrage of final projects and quizzes and 10-page essays, I ended up reading a lot of good stuff and I really wanted to talk about it back then. But it's not then anymore. What month is it now? I think it's January. And that is objectively too late to film this video. But you know what? Here we are. So the first book to talk about is the one that everyone was most excited for in November, including myself. I'm sure you can just feel the enthusiasm pouring off of me at this current moment. And that is the very beautiful Call Down the Hawk by Maggie Stiefvater. It was very fun to get this expansion pack to the Raven Boys series, which is one of my all-time faves, although I have to say I didn't quite enjoy this one as much as the OG series. This book focuses more on Ronan and his brothers Declan and Matthew, and we get to learn more about the dreams and the dream black market, which, like, oh my god, what do I need to do to get myself a ticket? Do I have to learn a secret handshake? Is there a sign-up sheet? Is it like a Facebook invite? How do I get there? I want to be there. This new plotline of new dreamers and dream hunters was very interesting. Didn't quite like the other dreamer that we were introduced to, but that might be on purpose. I sure hope it is. Honestly, I think the reason I didn't like this very much is because there's not much Adam in it. Like, Parrish, where are you at, bruh? Also, creepy barcode, Cyclops, zombie crabs. I'm good. I'll pass. Hard pass. I mean, it didn't stop me from crying multiple times at this book, so I did like it. I'll buy the second one, obviously, because I love Maggie Stiefvater, but just not quite up to the standard of Raven Boys. The second book in November was a wrap-up to one of my favorite series of all time. Very impressed with the finale of The Toll by Neil Shusterman, which is the third and final of his Arc of a Scythe trilogy. For some reason, in case you don't know about one of my favorite underrated books, Scythe takes place in this dystopian future where technology has gotten to a point where everything is so good that no one can die anymore. And the whole world is kind of being run by this benevolent AI, and there are people called Scythes that go around and call the population. Scythe itself had me with a resting heart rate of 1,000. Then the Thunderhead had me throw the book after I was finished, because what a wild twist, and I cried at work at my desk for the ending of The Toll. So we just had the entire emotional cycle happen in this series. This thick boy was a wild ride. Well worth the price of admission. I will say that it took a direction that I was not expecting it to, but just like the spaceships that are mentioned in this book, I was on board. This cements itself as one of my favorite series of all time, just because it goes so much into morality and mortality and death and life and what it actually means to live and technology and humanity. It raises so many feelings and great mysteries, great twists. Neil Shusterman, just what a guy. Another series wrap-up that I finally finished in November was The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black. Cruel Prince was a bangin' read. Wicked King had one of the best plot twists I have read in nearly a decade, and then Queen of Nothing was just alright. Because while I did enjoy most of the things that were brought together at the end of this book, I felt like it wasn't quite as bombastic or tricky as I was maybe hoping it was. I liked the relationship deepening that happened in this novel, and I quite liked all of the trickery, especially the stuff that happened at the end, because I love me some tricky fairies, but at the same time, this is probably like a 4 out of 5 instead of Wicked King's 5 out of 5. Then a book that I actually returned, so let's just talk about it briefly. That is Songs of the Deep by Kelly Powell, which was supposed to be a killer mermaids book that just ended up being kind of boring. It takes place in about a 1930s, 40s Gaelic town where there are sirens off of the island and a lighthouse keeper main love interest. As sirens start murdering people more often than they have in decades, there's a bit of a hysteria that happens on the island and a murder mystery that the two main characters have to find out. The writing was really beautiful, and the way that she set it up just made it so real, and as someone who has just recently been to Scotland, it was very nice to kind of see that again in a book. However, there was a lot less killer mermaids than I was expecting. So this is mostly like murder mystery with like a mermaid way over there. And I wanted the mermaids to be like right here, you know? So not my cup of tea. Oh boy, the caffeine's kicking in. Woo! Alright. Oh god, I made that a strong cup. Then a book that I think I've mentioned in like 4 videos so far, because it was good, and it was creepy, and it was witchy, and that was Winterwood by Shay Earnshaw. Nora Walker comes from a long line of witchy women that have all lived, or did live, in this cabin on the edge of a lake and a forest, and there's a special place in this forest called the Winterwood where lost things appear, and one day, as she's trekking through the woods, she finds a boy. Across the lake there is a camp for troubled boys, and as a snowstorm comes and isolates the mountain, one of the boys is said to be dead and one of them is said to be missing. So it's a bit of a not quite murder mystery, witchiness, hysteria, trapped in a small town during the winter, everything's closing in with magic kind of book. Everyday magic realism that I love so much, like this wood where you can just find lost things and a creepy dark lake with maybe a little bit more sentience than you expect from like a normal lake and forest. And the secondary plotline of the boys camp and Oliver, as we get to speak to, that was really good too, because you get to kind of fill in all sides, and she kept me guessing till the very end, even though I was pretty sure what was happening. The way that she gives out information, you keep questioning yourself. So I thought that was really well done. So along with cutting my hair this year, another big status has changed in my life, and that is I'm now married. I'm now married to this book. It's called The Guinevere Deception by Kirsten White. We're very happy together, thinking of moving somewhere new in the spring. I love me some King Arthur retellings as much as the next English lit bitch does, okay? Wow. The world of King Arthur fits very well into a magical YA retelling, especially with the amount of magic in here with the Lady of the Lake and the Fairy Queen and Merlin and King Arthur and Excalibur. Guinevere comes as an interesting twisted character with being the daughter of Merlin, or is she? And she's not really Guinevere, she's a changeling, and so that whole aspect adds such a cool layer of magic and mystery to the book, especially when it's paired with King Arthur's magic and Mordred's magic, and having Lancelot be the character that they were was really interesting. I think that she did such a good job of twisting it, but also making it dark and creepy and sort of her own thing. See, a while ago I used to do wrap-up hauls where I would talk about ones I read and ones that I just bought. I'm trying to keep those separate, but not today. Today we are going to end this video by talking about a couple books that I got in November and still haven't read. And I'm pretty sure it's January. So, the first book I bought and then promptly didn't read is The Name of All Things by Jen Lyons, which is the sequel to Ruin of Kings. Right there! Oh, orphan boy finds out that he's actually from this magical family of power and wealth and influence, and then he has to trapeze through the court, having been raised an orphan. But this book did that in a way that was like, if Scott Lynch and Patrick Rothfuss and Brandon Sanderson were all kind of like mentoring uncles to that. Sort of like that. Really good series, liked the magic of that world very well, and I really like the main character. I think he's going to grow into a fantastic protagonist. So I obviously bought the sequel, very excited about it, and then didn't crack it open. So this is going to be top of the list, but maybe not quite as on top as this next book. The book that I will gladly have top me is a book that's probably going to throw my white balance off. So I also bought and then promptly did not read Cursed by Frank Miller and Thomas Wheeler. Oh, that didn't throw it off too bad, actually. Yet another King Arthur book. I don't know if this is a new trend, but if it is, I'm on board. It is right up my alley. It just floats my boat. The most well-known story of King Arthur pulling Excalibur out of the rock is twisted in this book because what if Excalibur was picked up by a girl? So we have Nimue, who I believe turns into Lady of the Lake in the traditional Arthurian tale. Nimue is our protagonist, but we also do get to meet up with Arthur. There's druids, there's fairies, I think she's a changeling, not really sure. There's a war, there's action and adventure, and another cool sword. So I love it. It's also going to be on Netflix, so I better get my ass in gear and finally read it. Lastly is a book that I'm probably the most ashamed about because my friend got this for me as a pre-order for my birthday in June. It came out in November, and I still haven't read it. Despite the fact that it's so beautiful, I feel like I need medical attention after every time that I glance over at it, and that is The Starless See by Erin Morgenstern. She's the author of The Night Circus, which was such a beautiful, cinematic, wondrous type book, and this book is kind of going along those same lines. It has to do with like under the hill magical libraries and labyrinths that lead to other worlds and keys and a protagonist who's searching for something magical and kind of gets it, and I'm so excited to start this because her writing was so beautiful in Night Circus. I think it's going to be amazing in this. It's stunning. Oh my god, it just keeps going. Look at the detail. Look at that detail. It's just so so beautiful. So looking at all the stuff that I both read and didn't read, it looks like it was not a November haul, but it was a Yes-Vember haul. I really don't want to film this again. I really hope that this time I see my face on iMovie and I like it, and I think my jokes are funny enough to put on the internet. You can leave down below how you feel about my amateur humor, and also leave down below any books that you want to talk about. Maybe it's some of the ones that I mentioned. Did you also read these last year? Are they now on your 2020 list? I'm almost done my coffee. I'm feeling a little better now, but I also feel like this is gonna wear off in a couple hours, so maybe I should just start cleaning my house. You know where to click to like the video, you know where to click to subscribe. I hope you guys are all having a nice day wherever you are, and I will see you all next week. Bye!